right. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be at a conference where people are actually really excited about data and identifiers. I know, right? Usually this doesn't happen to me when I go to conferences outside Wikimedia, so very nice. So, Wikidata. We are collecting data about the world with, by now, 20,000 volunteers for the past 6 years. So what is Wikidata? Wikidata is Wikimedia's knowledge base. This means we collect data like Berlin is the capital of Germany, this and that person won the last Oscars, this movie was directed by this director, and about so many things in the world. How does it look like in practice? Here you can see a screenshot of our entry for Heinrich Heine. And you will see at the top his name, a short description for him, some other names he was known under, and so on. And then you will find statements that he was a human, a link to an image for him, and on the site, links to Wikipedia articles in many, many languages about Heinrich Heine. And you will see more statements, including things like there's some disagreement about his date of birth and date of death, apparently. And every single entry in Wikidata, like the one for Heinrich Heine, has an ID, prefixed by a Q and then some number. So Heinrich Heine is Q44403. Keep that in mind. No, you don't have to. So everything has a permanent identifier, persistent identifier. And then we link to many, many places on the web, in libraries, and so on, to connect our data with other data. Heinrich Heine, I counted, has links to almost 100 other libraries, projects online that have more data and information about him, and so on. So you really can go to Wikidata and branch out to all these other projects. Right now, we have more than 52 million concepts that we collect data about. These are people, movies, cities, asteroids, genes, pretty much anything you can think of. And we have so-called properties and that we use to describe this data. 3,400 of those are links to other databases. So we connect our data with 3,400 other databases. And the German National Library is one of them. Now, how many of those links do we actually have? That's currently 87 million. So that's a lot of connections to the rest of the world from Wikidata. Here you can see a list of the ones that are used most. And the 15th most used identifier on Wikidata is the GND ID. So how do we get all this data? We have amazing people, right now about 20,500 of them, who contribute all this data and who care about keeping it in good shape, just like you all care about keeping your data in good shape. These people and their tools, their bots, their machines, make about 24 million edits per month. So that's a lot of changes happening all the time. All this data is, of course, used, otherwise we wouldn't have to do it. And I just picked some examples that show the use of Wikidata identifiers. The first one in the upper corner is Quora. Quora is a question-answering website where you can ask a question about any topic you can think of, and then other people can answer your question. You get to vote on the answers, and so on. And what they do is they connect their topics to Wikidata IDs to then be able to say, oh, Germany, if someone asks a question about Berlin, then someone who knows about Germany can probably also answer that. So we show that as well. And they get this kind of information from Wikidata, thanks to our IDs and the connection they have to our IDs. On the other side, you see an excerpt of the source code of the website of the German home improvement store called Obi. It's one of the very big ones. And they are linking to their Wikidata ID to say, this is us. There you can find information about our Facebook profile, about our Twitter account, when we were founded, who is our boss, all these kinds of things, so that then search engines, for example, can use that information to display you the little information boxes that they now have. And at the bottom, you can see a screenshot from a Wikipedia article where you can also, on many, many Wikipedia articles, see these little boxes to link you to, for example, the German National Library, the French National Library, FIAF, OCLC, all of them. So our identifiers are used out there a lot already for many different things and interesting things. But what makes Wikidata special? First of all, the community, of course, all the people that are behind it. But on the technical side and the philosophical side, there's more to it. First of all, it's a multilingual project, and that also means a multicultural project. So we cater to people who do not just speak English or German, but Kiswahili, Vietnamese, any of these languages, and they all work together on the same data. Now, this is not always easy, because with different languages and different cultures comes different points of view. And there isn't always a right or wrong view. This is something that we really hold dear at Wikidata, right? There are legitimate disagreements about some of the things in this world. And there's legitimate different points of views about some of the things in the world. And I'm not talking about fake news. I'm talking about things like, which country, is Taiwan its own country or does it belong to China? There is no right or wrong answer to this. There's different bodies in the world who have one opinion about this, but we don't judge. We record those different opinions and their sources, and we let the reusers of our information make up their mind, what they consider correct. And the other thing that's really important for us is modeling nuanced data. As you've seen in the example earlier, there was this agreement about Heinrich Heine's date of birth or date of death. So we don't just give you the different dates, we tell you where this data is coming from, but also some of them might be outdated, or some of them might be inferred from, for example, a gravestone and things like that. And we try to provide you that additional information to have more nuance in our data and allow you to judge better what you believe and what you consider correct. Now, at Wikimedia, we hold it very dear that anyone can edit our projects. This is pretty fundamental to what we do, because we believe that everyone should be able to contribute to the world's knowledge and to sharing the world's knowledge. At the same time, authority control is not so much about that. How does it go together? It's not always easy. Sometimes people get it wrong. Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people just don't understand. That's natural in such a big community where people come there who have not been trained in all the things that you've been trained in, all the rules of authority control and so on, what you do, what you don't do. But in all the experience we have through Wikipedia and also 6 years of Wikidata now, we have found a lot of ways that help us deal with that and get it right. Because we do care about getting it right. But at the same time, we do care about being open. And we have found many ways to enable that. I want to show you some of them. This is what we call recent changes. It shows you what's been happening in a wiki, like Wikidata, for the last few hours, for the last days. And you can see anything someone has done on that wiki. You can see any change that someone has made on that wiki. Now, we were talking about more than 20 million edits per month. No one is going to check every single one of them. That's just not humanly possible. But we, for example, enlist the help of machine learning tools that try to highlight the edits that have been made that are probably questionable or that need another review. So they get highlighted here in red, for example, so that one of the editors who do recent changes patrolling can pay more attention to those and use their time most effectively to pay attention to what is probably a mistake. Or here, if you have a statement in Wikidata, there are certain rules that the editors can apply to those properties. And to then do consistency checks. So here, for example, we have a statement on a woman who was apparently a citizen of Canada, but her date of birth doesn't match the existence of Canada. So she was born before Canada even existed. That does not make sense. So we tell editors, hey, something is probably wrong here. We don't know what exactly, but someone should have a look and figure out what is wrong here. And we have a lot of these different checks. And I've just given you a short overview of what is already there. There's much more. And there's much more to come, right? We will continuously invest in more tools to keep our data up to date, in a good shape, and correct. And the last thing I want to talk about is, now we do authority control in some way and shape and form on Wikidata itself, but that's not all. For the past year, we spent a lot of time investing in Wikibase, as you've already heard, and working on this idea that not all data has to be on Wikidata. Wikidata doesn't have to be and shouldn't be the only place where open data happens. It should be a very central place in a large ecosystem. And to enable that, we publish the software that is running Wikidata, called Wikibase, also for others to use. And we try to support that as much as we can. There's still a lot of work to be done in this area, but we're making progress. And here you can see a timeline of installations of Wikibase that are out there in the wild already now that collect their own open data and link it to Wikidata and many other different places. And over the next years, I expect that to become a big thing around authority control and open data. And I'd be very happy to see many of your projects also join this timeline in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Are there questions? Yes, there is. Thank you. And there should be a mic. I know you can speak very loud. Perhaps you can raise it, but we have several mics here, so just wait a minute. We're good in time.
Hello. Thanks for the very interesting presentation, Juliana Skutanin from the German National Library. I found it very interesting when you talked about quality control and the example with a person born before Canada was founded, so it was still the Commonwealth of, well, whatever. And so that is an example I can really follow. So you have an instance, Canada, where the date starts, I don't know, 1867, I think. But what I would find interesting is, you can name us other examples, not, with a date, because with a date, I realize it's really easily for a machine to read, so that's not a match. But can you tell us of other instances of mistakes the machine can detect? Because, when also only the date, this is probably quite easy, but are there other instances which are probably not so easy for the machine to find out?
Right. So the checks we currently have are a lot of these really simple kinds of checks, like someone is married to someone, but we only have it one way, not the other way. Or someone's child was born before them. Probably not. Or someone's date of birth is after their date of death. Unless they're a time traveler, again, probably not. And the thing is, with even these simple checks, you can find a lot of issues. And I expect that one of the things we will do, probably not in the coming year, but after that, is build out those machine learning tools much more, so that they look at the data we have and find outliers and possible mistakes. Something is not quite right here. Someone should look at that. And I think that will be a very useful thing to look at in the future as well.
Another question here on this side.
Yes, I didn't get the difference between Wikidata and Wikibase. Could you please say some words to Wikibase?
Okay, so Wikidata is one project. And you can see it if you go to wikidata.org. And it includes all our data, the website, our community, everything around it. And it is running a specific kind of software called Wikibase. And that software can just run any other website. So as you can see here, we have some, for example, for Lingua Libre, they are collecting speech examples, or OpenStreetMap, they're collecting data about buildings and streets and so on. Or you have DroidWiki, they're collecting data about Android phones and software that's running on Android phones. So really anything you can think of.
There's a question on this side. Barbara, here's here on your right side.
Thank you. I'm Christian from Swiss National Library. I'm also contributing to Wikidata, Wikipedia, but I'm also a librarian, and I'm contributing also to learn. And there I have very often a quality problem. There are several things. I think I'm also an expert, but other experts from everywhere, they correct me. And I'm sure they are wrong. And then I think, well, it's not my main job. I let it wrong. And then I think collaboration with something like Vincent told us, really controlled quality, authority data, if you are linking things, would be helpful, and also a label.
Yeah.
Please do not correct. It's good.
Yeah. So absolutely, we do want to link out to other sources, like the Swiss National Library, the French National Library, the German National Library, all of them, because they do have expertise and people caring about that data and checking that data and so on. And I think it's that interplay between a very open project that can react very quickly to, for example, events happening in the world, and one that is much more strict That's where the magic happens, I think, at that intersection where we can work together.
You showed us that you're linked to 3,400 other databases, and you don't want to include all that data. Is there a limit which data is included and which is not? It might be enough to just define one identifier and include no data at all, but obviously you include some data.
So there is no very hard defined line that we draw, because it also changes as the project grows, as we have more people taking care of the data, as we have more people doing different things with our data and needing different data. However, I always think about it as, if you look at Wikipedia, you have a very basic text about a topic that tells you basic information and gives you a very good overview of that topic. But if you really want to dig into the topic, then it gives you links to other places where you can learn more, to books where you can read more about it, to projects on the internet where you can find out more. And I think of Wikidata in a similar way, right? We give you a very basic set of data about the topic and ways to find out more if you really want to.